Alright, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to replace the CPU in your computer. In this particular case I'm going to be upgrading my AMD 4130 to an AMD FX 3850. So that should about double, maybe a little bit more than double the total processing power of the computer. So this is going to be a good upgrade. So excited for this. But all processor replacements are going to be generally the same if you have an Intel or an AMD. There's going to be some minor differences, but I'll give you a couple guidelines here, because I think replacing the CPU in your computer can be one of the most intimidating things. It's not really difficult, but you do have to be careful, and it can definitely be intimidating because of how small the components are. So let's go ahead and get in here and take a look. Alright, so we got the computer case open here. Now, normally I'm not too big of a, I'm not too concerned about static charges, but in this case, since it is a CPU and I do have a water cooler in here, so I know I'm going to be touching the board quite a bit. And I'm going to go ahead and use my anti-static bracelet, attach that to the chassis of the case. So in our case here, because it's liquid cooling and the bracket that's mounted on here, we actually have 4 screws that need to be taken out. In your case, you may actually have a lever on one of the sides that will release the fan. So if you have that, you just need to take a look at the, how your heatsink is set up. In some cases, you'll actually find that when you take the fan off, that the CPU the thermal grease is actually stuck really good to the CPU. So you can actually run into cases where when you pull the heatsink off, you do have a lot of resistance. So if you run into that, do just be a little careful, but you can go ahead and just keep pulling it off. It will eventually break free. And if you're not concerned about your old processor, then not too much to worry about, but you do want to be I think the biggest thing to worry about when you're taking off your old cooler is don't damage the motherboard. Make sure that fan doesn't come down and hit one of these chips off or hit a capacitor off or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lift up a little bit here. So there you go. So that popping noise, which, makes me go, uh-oh. That is the thermal grease breaking free from the fan here, so or the cooler. So I don't know if you can actually see that there. Let's zoom in a little bit more here. So you can see there the thermal grease on the CPU, and then there's the thermal. I can't get it quite turned all around, but there is thermal on the heatsink here as well. So I need to actually get this cooler. Yours will just pull right off, and then you can unhook it and kind of set it aside, which is nice. In this case, since it is liquid cooling, the pipes here are actually stuck into the graphics card. So actually I'm going to go ahead and take this graphics card out too, so I have a little more room, because I don't want to be holding on to this or break something here. There's that. Woo! That's what you don't want to do. Yeah, so that's about a 50% chance that you just broke your motherboard when you have a screwdriver slide across the circuitry. Right there. There we go. So now we got our graphics card out. That'll give us a little bit of room. Let's put the static card on the anti-static mat here. Alright, so now we got a little more room for this piping to come up, and I can go ahead and unplug the fan. Now you can see the thermal paste that was on the back of that. So we're going to go ahead and open up our box here. So again, this is the AMD FX 8350 Black Edition, so this is an unlocked CPU, so makes, I know there's a couple newer models out there. This one's actually, I think 4 years old at this point. But still very fast CPU, very cheap. Right now on Amazon for about 160 bucks. If I remember, I'll put a link in the description to it. But this is pretty much for this motherboard that I have here. with the socket type. This is as fast as I can go, which is going to be nice, apart from pretty much upgrading my entire computer. $160 upgrade isn't bad to get double the processing power. I'll go ahead and just open up this fan case here real quick. If you do buy a new processor and you don't have like an aftermarket fan already, then using the one that they provide you is probably a good idea, just because it's something that they've certified to work with that CPU. So I'll keep this around as a backup. But since I already have the liquid cooling, I'm going to go ahead and try that. Hook that back up. It'll be a little bit quieter and a little bit better on cooling. So here we have the new processor. So whether it's AMD or Intel, it's going to be kind of similar. The Intel chip head on the top will be a little bit smaller. But this is in essence what you're going to be looking at here. So we want to go ahead and take out the old CPU first. So to do that, we simply lift up on the lever here. You might have to pull it out just a little bit and then lift up. And you'll feel it release. You'll pull out the old processor by lifting straight up. If you're going to be reusing this or selling this, be careful not to bend any of those pins. If you bend one of them just so slightly, most likely you're going to have a hard time selling it or getting it to work again. So we're going to go ahead and carefully we'll set that down here in our anti-static. And then we want to put the new one straight in. That's kind of my thing, is if it's brand new, let's not risk breaking it. So I'm taking this straight from the box and going to put it straight into the computer. So what we're going to do first is find the little arrow on the base. Again, they're a little bit different, but on this one I have a little symbol on the one side of the CPU. And that's how you know you can get the pins to line up the first time. So we'll go ahead and just drop it in there. It'll fall right in. You don't use any force at all. It'll fall right into place. Just kind of push down on all four corners. Just make sure it's in there all the way. And then you go ahead and push the lever back down until you feel it snap back into place. So now our CPU is installed. Now we just need to put the fan or your cooling unit back onto it. So in this case here, depending on how much, so if you were using the fan that came with the new CPU, so if you were just upgrading from a stock cooler to a stock cooler, this is going to come with a sheet of thermal paste on the bottom. That's fine, you would just leave that there. If you're buying a new cooler, a lot of times it'll come with it, but if you're replacing and leaving the existing cooler that's in there, you may want to put a small amount of thermal grease back onto the CPU. You can see here, there's still quite a bit on this cooler, but it doesn't have total coverage. So I may, what I'm going to do is put this on without any thermal grease, and primarily because I didn't order any, and see if we have any overheating issues. Okay. Also, if you're really cheap, like me, or you forgot to get thermal paste, you can actually manage to scrape a little bit off the old CPU by just sitting it over top and just lightly twisting it side to side. Some of it will come off. Like I said, I'm going to give this a try. We'll see how that does cooling wise. So now that we got everything, this new CPU in, and we've applied thermal paste if needed, so we'll go ahead and line up the screw holes. And again, if you're using the stock cooler, you're going to have a bracket on the motherboard that's already in place. You can see here on the stock cooler, you have a lever. So your motherboard comes built in with a bracket on it that these little hooks will go into. So you'll be able to use that to hook that on. But again, this is for liquid cooling. All right, plug our graphics card back in. And let's not forget to plug our fan back in. So that is that one right there. Done that before. You upgrade your CPU, forget to plug your CPU fan back in. Bad things happen after that. Alright, and then in my case here, I removed a fan ahead of time. I do need to reattach this fan. So I'll get the fan reattached, and then the next thing is to go plug it in and for my case, see if it still works, and then for your case to see if it's recognizing your new CPU correctly. So I will be right back and let you know how it goes. Okay, so I've gotten everything hooked back up. Light here. So everything's hooked back up. I do have a light on my video card, so at least it's getting power. Still don't know if I've messed up the motherboard yet or not, but here we go. Go ahead and turn it on and see what happens. Okay, turns on. You can hear the water cooler pump. We're getting a BIOS screen. New CPU installed. Please enter setup. Okay, so here we go. Sorry for the low quality on this here. Let me make sure I'm zoomed out. Alright. So we need to run setup. And hey, recognized it. There it is, the 8350 8-core processor. 4 gigahertz. We're definitely going to try to overclock this at some point. For now, I'm going to leave it as is. So that should be all we need. Just edit, and we'll save changes and reset. The fateful sign that a nerd has full faith that his computer is running good again is when he puts the side of the cover back on before the testing is even done. Alright, there's our final overall benchmark. It's definitely gone up. So we'll go ahead and do a courtesy upload of that. This is a performance test. This is from CPUbenchmark.net, I believe is the site. Passmark is the software company. Use them all the time for looking at that stuff. Alright, so here's our new CPU benchmark, and yes, it is substantially higher than it was before. 3261. Wow, so this is actually recorded. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. There we are. So you can see the performance increase from my old processor to my new one, and the overall performance increase. So more than twice as fast processing power and about a 25% increase in overall system performance. Wow, so this is interesting here too because of the higher processor. We've also improved our 2D graphics. 3D graphics slightly have increased as well. Memory's improved, and disk performance has improved. This just goes to show too, like in replacing your processor, it really is the brain of your computer. You can see similar results like this too with upgrading your motherboard. So upgrading one part can really bottlenecks in other parts. So there you have it. Successfully upgraded my CPU to the 8350. Hope that was helpful to see how a CPU replacement is done, and that the results of doing it yourself versus buying a new computer. Like I said, $160 to buy a new computer with this performance would be about $1,500–1,600. So because I could keep all my existing parts, I get to enjoy the faster speed without having to buy a whole new machine. So once again, thanks for watching.